Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Sarah Stevenson Tuesday Morning Forum. We are so excited to have you here with us today. Do we have anyone here for the first time? Okay. Oh, we got people here for the first time. That's great. Great. Could you introduce yourselves? We're going to bring a microphone around because we do have a streaming audience.
Hi, I'm Carol McGuire. I'm from Senior TLC, a PACE program here in Charlotte.
Welcome. Right here. Here.
Good morning, I'm Kanisha Jackson. I work here at Community Relations and I do budget and finance.
Thank you. So glad you work right here, so we'll see. Okay, I am Mary Johnson, and I'm a facilitator, one of the facilitators at Tuesday Forum, along with Ms. Laura McCletty, Carlenia Ivory Canty, Jackie Edwards Walton, Nathalie McGarrett. And Nathalie is our timekeeper, and she will hold that up nice and high when you get too long. We have Shay Abdullah, helping with technology. We have Gary Young. We have Jasmine Wright. She's not here this morning. We have, oh, she's here.
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. We have Dr. Thomas Moore. He's our house musician, but he's not here today. We have Mr. Steve Johnston, our website editor and technology person. And Mr. Ken Coots is going to serve as our chaplain for this morning. Yes, he is. Oh, yeah, that's right, 'cause he sent me the thing. Winston Robinson, thank you so much. Keeps us straight. Okay. Before we do anything else, we always begin with a prayer, so we would kindly ask Mr. Ken Coots to give us a word this morning.
The only reason they asked me to pray because they know God don't listen to them. This is a great, great day. And I don't know what's happening in your own lives personally, but what's happening in mine is that I woke up this morning and that's good enough for me. And anything beyond that is up to me. And I trust and have faith that anything beyond what I might be able to do, somebody else is in control. And for that point, I'm going to pray for all of us to the one who is in control. It's another day, Lord, and here we are. I don't know what's going on all over the world, but I do know who does, and I know who can get it straight in your own time and according to your own will and purpose. And sometimes, Lord, when we pray, when we don't get the result we need, we become challenged in our faith. So, Lord, strengthen our faith, our trust, that we lean only and solely unto you, and that all things in your time will be all right. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much.
Love you, prayer.
Okay, we are very excited this morning because we have three ladies here from the Community Relations Department of the City of Charlotte. Yes, they're going to introduce themselves in just a minute, but what I want to do is just remind you and for our new guests here today that they will present, they're going to give their presentation, and then we're going to take questions from the audience. And if you're in the audience, you know that you raise your hand, and we will call on you in the order that you raise your hand. And we ask you to keep your question to 30 seconds, and then we'll let these ladies answer. And because there are three of them, we're just trying to not get too lengthy. Nancy's okay. They have a lot to talk about this morning, and a lot that we need to know. Okay? Nathalie is the timekeeper, so she'll let you know when your 30 seconds are up, and she'll, if she feels like you need to move on, she'll hold up the time card, okay? Okay, that's that. Okay, again, thank you so much for being here today. We hope to see all of you again next week, and we're gonna go ahead and get started with our ladies. So I'll let you all begin in any order that you see that you need to. Oh, I'm sorry, wait, one thing. Please use the microphone because we have a streaming audience, okay? And they can't hear, you know, without you using the microphone. So be sure to hold it up fairly close to your mouth. Okay, and for you out there, we call this our moment of silence, and that's when you mute your cell phones. Okay, that's our moment of silence. Your phone is not on silent. Let's put it on silent or off. Okay, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Alicia Evans, and I have been a non-discrimination ordinance investigator and fair housing investigator with the City of Charlotte for over 3 years now. Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Diana Martinez, and I recently started with community relations here at the City of Charlotte as of December. So still learning a lot, and I'm looking forward to learning more with everyone.
Hello, everybody. Oh, I hate my phone because you told me I had to use it.
Okay,
But
yes.
my name is Rhonda Jackson. I've been with the City of Charlotte as a community fair housing investigator for 9 years now.
Okay, and I will be going first with the presentation. So today we're going to be talking about our department in itself, and specific to the fair housing protections that we have here. Okay, so a question that we're going to be thinking, and as well as answering hopefully by the end of the presentation, is does fair housing discrimination mean being treated differently or unfairly than others not in your protected class? Okay, so we're going to be going over that today. Okay, so who and what is community relations, right? So community relations is the human relations department here with the City of Charlotte. And within that department, we have the Fair Housing Assistance Program. And with that program, we have the jurisdiction here to assist individuals when they file complaints that when they need their rights protected under the law. We can also receive, initiate, investigate, and conciliate, as well as conduct public hearings on housing discrimination. We can require answers to interrogatories and the production of documents and data requests. We can also administer oaths and dispositions and issue subpoenas. And we can also approve settlement agreements to reduce the effects of housing discrimination, as well as monitor compliance within different sectors here in Charlotte. Okay, so what exactly is fair housing, right? So fair housing is your right to live wherever you want freely, regardless of your protected class. And that right is protected by the federal government, state, and local law. And many municipalities like ours, fair housing, the fair housing law is enforced through local ordinances. Okay, so it's not an option, right? Developers can't just choose to follow the law. It's a law, right? So you guys follow it. So discrimination, what exactly is it? This is the definition we use when we're investigating complaints. And discrimination has taken place when someone has been disadvantaged, treated differently, or with a distinction or preference due to a protected class. All right, so what exactly are the protected classes, right? So we have race, color, national origin, sex, religion, federal status, and disability. Race should not be confused with color. The color of your skin, race is more as characterized by your physical traits. National origin would be the nation where the person is born, and sex recently is now only refers to male and female because of the administration, and because of the administration as well, they have removed sexual orientation and gender identity from the federal act. So that's a new update for the area of sex as well. And of course, religion, familial status usually refers to families who have minors under the age of 18 and disability. Something that we don't have federally is source of income. With local jurisdiction, we can protect people who receive vouchers or other forms of income assistance. Okay, so types of discriminatory behavior. It may be a violation of the law to refuse to sell or rent, offer different terms and conditions, misrepresent availability, advertise preference, or imitation, harass, or make housing otherwise unavailable. So what's an example of this? Let's say I call the phone, I'm like, hello, is this available? They're like, yes, like it's available. I go in there in about 15 minutes, they see me and they're like, oh, sorry, you actually don't have anything available. Or let's say I go in there and I am asking for different housing and they see that I don't have any legal status and they say, oh, sorry, because you don't have any legal status, we have to charge you an extra fee of $300 because we don't know if you're going to be like, you're going to have legal issues because of your status. That's also a form of discrimination. So those are just a few examples of types of behavior. So what is our jurisdiction? What can we investigate? So people have 365 days to file a complaint from the date that they feel like they were discriminated against. So now that you know this information, if you know someone who may be going through discrimination or has told you about different experiences, something vital within those 365 days is to gather evidence, right? It helps us a lot when we investigate. So now knowing this information, you have about 365 days to gather evidence, right? So please make sure to share that information with others. And timeliness, that's the part of the timeliness as well as standing. And the subject matter has to apply to at least one, to a few of the federal regulations as well. Okay, so for a prize that we have up here, we have notebooks, we have stress balls, like it's a little hard right now. We have glasses cleaners, we have flashlights, keychains, and pens and highlighters. Who would like to answer the question of how many protected classes are there in Charlotte and are in the Charlotte Fair Housing Ordinance? You can name 3. Who would like to? Does anyone remember what I said? Anybody want to raise their hands? Yes.
Race and colors, sexuality, sexual orientation.
Sexual orientation is no longer protected, but yes, sex, not
I
adverse.
got 2 then, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you can read one more.
One more. Religion.
Yes,
Okay,
religion.
no.
So yes. So at the end of the presentation, we'll make sure to give you a prize.
Okay, so there has been some emerging issues that's been popping up lately, and I'm going to briefly go over that. Yeah. Yeah,
People that aren't here there.
Okay. The source of income, in August of 2022, City of Charlotte and Mecklenburg County has come to acknowledge that certain things people were being denied housing because of certain funding. There was even sources of income. So as of 2022, if they're receiving funding from city or the county, as far as building, they have to accept these fundings. And as you can see up front, funding is social security checks, child support, alimony are considered sources of income. Domestic violence. With receiving subsidized housing has a protection called WAWA, Women's Against, here I go. A Violence Against Women Act, and pretty much is saying that a woman cannot be put out, or a person that's receiving a victim of domestic violence cannot be put out because of that. It's asked that you extend grace, pretty much. Domestic violence is not always physical. Sometimes it's emotional, isolation, different forms of attack from their abuser. So when someone comes to the office and say, hey, I am suffering from domestic violence, I need to move, the act is saying, hey, give them a chance to move to a safer location. Another emerging topic, and 60% of our cases always falls into this category, is dealing with disability discrimination based on disability, and it always goes into reasonable accommodations or when it's asking for a service animal or assistance animal. and briefly to know the difference between the two. And just to follow up on that, assistance animal, I think this is the coolest thing. In North Carolina acknowledged 2 animals as service animals, and that is a dog and a miniature horse. So if you see someone with a miniature horse in a store, that is classified as a service animal. Then other animals fall up under assistant animals. It could be a bird, dog, cat, rabbit, however, but just keep in mind a service animal is considered a dog or a miniature horse.
All right, I'm gonna wrap us up with our final section, and this is about criminal background. All right, so generally in fair housing, the rule is what? Treat everyone the same, right? Regardless of their protected class. Criminal background is the only place where that's a little bit different. And that's because our criminal justice system in this country has not been equitable to people of all races, right? In the past, or even in the present. So people of color are disproportionately affected by our criminal justice system. And so a blanket ban on anyone with a criminal background, saying I'm not going to rent to anyone with any kind of criminal background, that's going to affect certain populations more than others, right? So that's what we call a disparate impact, because it's going to have a disproportionate effect on, particularly African-American males are way more likely to be arrested or convicted than, say, a white female, right? All right, so blanket bans are not allowed under fair housing. You cannot deny someone housing based on an arrest alone. It has to be a conviction. And the way you avoid a fair housing investigation under criminal background is you look at everyone on a case-by-case basis, and you look at each factor, such as how long ago the crime occurred, what was the nature of the crime, the severity of the crime, rehabilitation, mitigating factors. You look at the whole picture, and you provide that person an opportunity to tell you the story of what happened and what's happened since then. So we already covered arrest, no blanket bans, case-by-case basis, look at good behavior since the crime was committed, all those mitigating factors. All right, so as you saw in the video, Legal Aid of North Carolina has been a great partner in fair housing for us. We collaborated with them on a test in fair housing. So if you can imagine 8 pairs of testers in the room, and one is African American and one is white, and we sent each pair to a different housing provider in Charlotte. And they had the same kind of criminal background, and we wanted to see if one was going to be treated differently than another one. So 6 out of those 8, there was a difference in treatment. And 2 of the 8, there was no difference in treatment. Difference in treatment, so what does that mean? Sometimes it means coaching. Let me tell you how to fill out this form. Let me help you fill it out. Let me tell you kind of, what to say. Or let me explain the process to you. One person gets that, the African American person doesn't get that. A refund. The white tester being told, if you're denied, we'll provide you a full refund of your fees. The African American person was not told that. An automatic denial. The African American person was told, no, with your conviction, you will not be allowed to stay here. And the white person was not. All right. How to avoid a criminal background ban. You can disclose your process right on your website. You can let people know that they can provide that rehabilitation paperwork, mitigate factors, maybe a letter from someone. Maybe you've completed your community service and you have a letter stating that, or just someone who can write about your character, maybe an employer. Just let people know that they can submit those things up front even before they apply. What you want to do is also, look at, was this a violent crime? Was it nonviolent? How many years ago did it happen? How old was the person when it happened? So just kind of making sure you're not just thinking about those things, because when I'm investigating, it doesn't help me to know that you thought about it, right? There's no evidence of that. You actually have to document it. If you have a conversation, document it. If you can collect any paperwork from the person, you can document that as well. That'll help you in any fair housing investigation to show that you really did look at the person on a case-by-case basis. What we're seeing is more and more third-party screening companies. So the housing provider will use a website, third-party screening company, to just provide that data of, does this person have a felony, a misdemeanor? So when we get to the case, the housing provider often points the finger to that third-party screening company and says, they gave us the report with the thumbs down, it's on them, not us. And then the third-party screening company points the finger back to the housing provider and says, we just provide data, they make housing decisions, it's on them. So we got both people pointing the finger at each other, but ultimately both people could be held responsible for the denial. This is another resource from Legal Aid of North Carolina that we got, just to give you the gist of it. Criminal backgrounds in the past have gone back, standard practice to look back 10 years, which is a significant amount of time. In recent years, because of HUD guidance, that period is looking more like 2 to 5 years. Only in very severe, very violent cases would you look back probably more than 5 years. All right, this is just a helpful checklist of all of those case-by-case factors that one can look at in their criminal background screening policy. I won't go over them all again. I think we did a pretty good job of that. All right, so as a final wrap-up question, as a landlord, can you refuse to rent to people with a criminal background?
Yes.
Yes. Anyone else disagree? Okay, so it's a tricky question, right? So you have to follow that case-by-case basis, right? So if that person does fall under that, you did look at them on a case-by-case basis, maybe they did commit a very violent crime in very recent history, then you can justify saying no to that person. That is a blanket ban, saying we don't rent to anyone with a criminal background, even types of convictions you cannot ban. So you can't say we don't rent to anyone with felonies. That will still be considered a type of blanket ban. So the blanket ban is what you're avoiding. All right, just to give you a wrap up, this is a resource where you can file a fair housing complaint with HUD and locally with our community relations office. Our contact information for all of our staff members here. And then I'll give you some tips, just in case today really sparked your passion for fair housing. There's a film called Segregated by Design. It's an animated documentary. I highly recommend it. It's less than 20 minutes, so you can fit it into your lunch break. It's how federal, state, and local governments unconstitutionally segregated major metropolitan areas in the United States through law and policy. So segregation and discriminatory practices in housing didn't just happen because a few people were racist, right? It came from the top down. It was designed and implemented by the federal government. So this kind of really delves into that. And it's based on The Color of Law. I don't know if anyone's read that book, but it's Richard Rothstein. It's a great book, The Color of Law. So I do recommend that. And I do have a handout in the back in case you are really interested in learning more. Several documentaries, webinars, everything from racial bias in home appraisals. You'd be surprised how much racial bias there is in home appraisals. I wish we could get into that today, but we don't have time. But I highly recommend scanning the QR code and taking a look at that documentary. Steering, we've touched on a little bit, saying, a person who looks like you wouldn't want to live over here, you'd be happier living over here. There's it's called Testing the Divide. That's a great Newsday piece that goes over real life examples of what steering looks like. And then, of course, assistance animals we talked about. It's about 2 hours, a webinar from HUD, from NAFTA on assistance animals. So I recommend that one as well. So I know we do want to leave plenty of time for questions. Okay, Jen has one more thing to add.
Thank you, Misha. Also, just to make sure y'all know, in the back table, we also have a couple of resources for you to take home. We have the Fair Housing and NDO manual with everything that we just went over. If you guys just want to have it in a handy, nice little book. We also have information about code enforcement. Sometimes we get a lot of complaints about code enforcement, and unfortunately our department doesn't do code enforcement. But code enforcement does code enforcement, so we have some information back there. And we also have the non-discrimination ordinance in English and Spanish. So if you just want to share this with your community, it has the protected classes listed as well as the QR code and our contact information. You can also get that one. And we also have a mediation training coming up. If you would like to be a mediator and help with the tenant and landlord mediation, there's going to be a training coming up soon, so feel free to get this flyer as well. And everyone is welcome to that. Okay, and I think we're opening up. Yes.
Okay, Ken has the presentation. Ken has.
There are a lot of things that are impacted generationally. And my question is because of the youth that I see in each of you, can you express the differences you see as you provide these services, and especially conflicts between older or senior persons, 55 or 60 and older, and those who may be 25, 50? Do you find reactions and responses to any violations different from each of those affected areas? In other words, if you're discriminating, you're interviewing somebody who is discriminated, do you find differences in how each of those groups may respond?
And I make sure I'm getting correct. So you're saying the difference between the younger generation versus the older generation and their responses for filing claims for discrimination. Now this is me personally speaking from. See, y'all should have let me walk around. I speak louder. With the younger generation, it tends to be I'm treated unfair because I had friends over, or whatever the case may be. Not understanding that you have to pay your rent. And I think a lot of that is because, give me the same, they haven't had the life experience. As far as we're older people of our age, they're mostly needing accommodations. One accommodation is Social Security checks might fall on different dates, and normally your rent is due on the first of the month. And so I'm receiving my Social Security or my disability check at the 15th of the month. Of course, I'm gonna be late. So they're trying to navigate, how can I pay my rent without being charged that late fee? So that's pretty much some of the things. Accommodations are needed as far as like grab bars, being installed in a unit or something like that. So pretty much this.
I'll just add to it that, today a lot of resources are available online. Not that someone who's older can't be, familiar with how to use the website and everything like that, but sometimes they're not. And so we have to be a little bit more creative in just letting people know that we exist. These are the resources that are out there. So we do that through like resource fairs, we even have bus ads. So we have to be a little bit more creative in trying to be intentional in reaching people who don't have access to just go to the website, just look at our social media or things like that. I think that the skill set of that generation, I think, is talking. I feel like they are more likely to engage in, mediation type. If they're having a dispute with a neighbor, they're likely to say, yes, of course, I want to sit down in a mediation to try to resolve this. And so they have that conversational skill set that the younger generation might not have developed as well, because the younger generation, I think, does communicate a lot digitally. So that generation, I feel like, brings the skill set to mediation. They're able to talk through their problems and resolve them through mediation as well.
Good morning. My name is Winston Robinson. I got a question. So the book's mentioned at the end, some of my favorites actually, Color of Law by Richard Ross. And I can add another one, In Case of Reparations by Ta-Nehisi Coates from The Atlantic, which all kind of point to how policies shape where we are now. And if we were to look at that policy to examine the residual effects, how would your department make those adjustments that are the reflections and the implications of that damaging policy. For example, if I am Black, which I am, very much so, and I have to endure the centuries of damaging policy, but now I'm an income property holder, the amount of scrappiness that I have to have creates a level of sensitivity. So if I see a person looking to rent this place I have, and they have a miniature horse, and I'm looking at like, ooh, I don't think I can handle the back end of that, if this doesn't work out for longer than a year. In that case, but I don't want to discriminate against anybody, of course. So will your department kind of help pick up the back end if something does happen that is harmful or hurtful because you want to be within the space of the law?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I would say that the place where people get in trouble in fair housing is they will sometimes make the assumption that damage is going to be done by that animal. So that's where you don't want to assume, oh, this animal's going to damage my property, this person's not going to take care of their animal. So just stay away from the assumptions up front. But on the back end, if the damage has occurred, you are within your rights, just like any other tenant that you would have, to charge fees for those damages. Just like if the tenant damages the property, if children damage the property, same with any kind of animal, whether it's a subsistence animal or pet, if there is damage to the property, you're within your right to collect on that. If the person's not paying what you're charging for the damages, you certainly have the right to pursue that in court. And also that's why we have our landlord-tenant mediation program. So we would invite you to come to mediation to try to resolve that, maybe put that person on a payment plan. You would be in charge of the resolution. That's the benefit of mediation. If the judge is not telling you how it's going to be resolved, it's in your control of deciding with each other how it's going to be resolved.
Okay, Garrett.
Good morning, Gary Young. I would ask, in this day and age, how often are you hearing cases of discrimination from a housing standpoint? And if you do find that there is cause of discrimination, what is your next steps to proceed from your department's lens?
Okay. Actually, we have received quite a bit. Part of my job is I do intake out and receive all the complaints that come in via web call or if they mail it in. So we do receive quite a bit. I would say on an average, probably getting 2 to 3 cases a day, maybe. Some days, some weeks might be quiet. Then there's some weeks that it's just like receiving cases. And there are a wide range of cases, from discrimination because of disability, or lately we've been having some with coming in with race. So it's an ongoing thing. I think last year, and this might sound small, but I think it was it 40? Right here. You can see our case average for the year.
Question?
Good morning. My name is Jasmine. I am a community organizer. I've worked with multiple organizations across North Carolina. One of those was the Redress Movement here in Charlotte. I'm not the organizer for that organization anymore. Well, are you? Okay, so technically it's 2 parts. Y'all mentioned the color of law. The Redress Movement was actually founded by Richard Rothstein based off of redressing the harms of racial segregation. So they have an organizer here in Charlotte. My question to you, one, are y'all familiar with the organization, and especially including their work around the people's budget? So it's also a shameless plug. I'm gonna make an announcement for it.
Yes, so we were approached by a lovely representative from your organization with plenty of literature about the movement and the postcards as well. So thank you for bringing that to our attention today and being a resource for that. I appreciate it.
Good morning. I am Johnson Mental Health America. So I'm curious if you are seeing mental health play a part in any discrimination cases or requests for accommodations.
Actually, yes, we do, we have had a couple come in where mental health might have been, cause of someone's actions that might be facing them for eviction. So we have had that. And a lot of stuff, so let me back out of that one. But yes, so we have, and so we address it accordingly. We'll do, if it meets our jurisdiction, we will open up the case and do an investigation and see exactly how is this person discriminated? Was it because of the mental illness that was causing them to be discriminated? So yes, we do receive those cases.
And actually going back to what we talked about with the emotional support animals, that a cause of why so many people are needing these emotional support animals now is because of mental health issues. So we're seeing that more and more come up. But yeah, and also, issues such as hoarding can run into fair housing as well. So we see that come up.
Good morning, Carrie Nelson. So I gave you the information on the people's budget. And maybe I missed this earlier, you might have said this, but do you all deal with issues, say there are code violations and things like that in rental apartments that have not been addressed by the owner and like,
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. So we do get phone calls every now and then about code violations. It happens a lot as well with the Latino community. A lot of times people will think that it is a fair housing issue, but we have two separate departments for that. So when people call and say, oh, I'm being discriminated against because my apartment is in terrible disarray, and this and that, something that we can do is refer them to the code enforcement division, and that way it's the easiest process to get to them would be to call 311, request it in your language, and then talk to someone in code enforcement, where they can usually get a code enforcer out within about 24 to 48 hours. So they work pretty quickly, but we do get phone calls from them a lot, yes. And we work pretty closely with them when we do education presentations and trainings. We'll do our best to get code enforcement to come with us so that they can also talk about what they do as well, but yes. Mm-hmm. Just to add a little bit to that, when it comes to code violations, sometimes can run into fair housing if you see that maintenance is maybe not responding to maintenance requests when it's a person of color, or maybe a person over a certain age, or we could run into if they're discriminating in whose apartments get fixed and whose don't. That can run into a fair housing violation as well. So we do, Rhonda's our intake analyst, so she'll kind of screen for that kind of thing. Is this an issue affecting the whole building, or are you kind of being singled out based on your protected class?
Okay, I have a question. I know usually landlords charge extra for animals because of the maintenance. Does that apply when it's a service animal or an emotional support animal? Does the person have to pay extra?
When it's a service animal, emotional support animal, no, they're not. That normally with a pet fee is normally $300, $400 they complex is charged when someone's moving in. But as far as when you have that accommodation, to have that service animal or emotional support animal, no, they can't charge that pet fee.
Yeah. Right here. You sent out those 10 people to test and it came back that 8 out of 10 of them, the landlords were discriminating.
which means like 80% of them are discriminated. Most people, if you go, and they don't know that they're being discriminated against, you know, because you're setting out the test cases. How often do you do that? And is there a limit? If I've failed that test 15 times in a row, and you say you can't rent in Charlotte or Mecklenburg County, what's the punitive for if I continually fail to fail your test?
Can I be honest with you?
Yes, please.
I'm gonna be very honest with you. We have discovered when there's discrimination, when you start charging people fines, and there's no set thing, I can't say. Because when we do something also called conciliation, so if we found that there was discrimination that occurred, we get both parties together and like, okay, if you were discriminated, it's like, hey, what is it that you like to see the outcome to be? What is it that you need to be made whole? So you will make your request. We will take it back to the respondent. And so we will go back and forth with that to see if we can come to a resolution. If we can't come to a resolution through mediation, conciliation, there's always, the city will take the case to court, Superior Court. But as far as someone constantly violating policy over and over, when you start finding and taking people's money, just like anybody, anything regular, you normally change your behavior. We find there are fines given. Also, we do an educational piece. We go in and actually train organizations, groups, housing, whether it's a mass group or just one person. If there's found discrimination is found, there is some kind of training that goes behind that.
Ms. Johnson is on you.
Oh, I asked my question. It's Gary and then Jack.
Appreciate it. Now, I was looking at your stats right there behind you, and I was gonna ask, can you explain the differentiation between your fiscal year 25 inquiries of 12/30 is 106, but your fiscal year 25 inquiries opened as of 12/30 is 15? So what's the 91 difference in those two stats?
Okay. And correct me if I'm right or wrong. Normally it was, normally the year runs from July to June, July. Well, when it becomes federal, since we are part of HUD, the Fair Housing Act, it starts in September. So that might be why the cases look kind of low right now. Alicia, am I correct?
Yeah, we don't run on a calendar year. We run on the city's fiscal year. And yeah, you are seeing, as it says, some carryover as well from the previous year.
Right. My question is more about the difference in the 91, not necessarily the date. You got 106 inquiries, but you have 15 inquiries open.
Okay, thank you, I'm sorry about that. What happens is, we take all cases, not all cases, so you could file a complaint saying, hey, I was discriminated because I parked on the left side of the street. But after I do an interview with you and come to find out it's actually not a case of discrimination, it's sent to a dispute settlement department. So what you're seeing here is how many calls we get in from that period of time to actual saying, going through and saying, okay, yeah, this is fair housing. No, this is not fair housing. And so this is the actuality of what came out, the case that were actually open and given to an investigator to actually do an investigation. And yeah.
Yeah, so there's 4 elements of jurisdiction that Deanna went over: timeliness, standing, subject matter. So 36 out of those 150 check all those 4 boxes.
Good morning, thank you for coming. I'm a little hoarse. Years ago, when there was a conciliation, and the money at one point was given to nonprofits, and the nonprofit that I ran at that time received about $10,000. Who's receiving those kinds of dollars now?
So for conciliation, the monetary relief goes to the complainant. We don't keep monetary relief from conciliation. So the person, we ask the person, what will make you whole again? And then they will, sometimes it's not even monetary relief that they're seeking. Sometimes it's just a letter of apology, or a change in policy or practice. So it's totally up to them what they're going to ask for. It has to be realistic, of course, because this is a voluntary agreement that they're making. So they submit their request for relief, and then the respondent will either accept it, reject it, or counteroffer. And then the conciliator will help them to, meet in the middle, kind of reach an agreement, kind of a thing. And all of that monetary relief goes to the complainant typically.
Good morning. My name is Robert Collins. My question is this, and I know you all haven't been there a very long time, but over the last 10 years and even 5 years, Charlotte has changed a lot in the sense of what it costs to buy a home or even to rent a home. And so I'm wondering, is there a specific demographic that's being affected by that as far as their complaints in fair housing? Fair housing is usually considered either typically your race or your money, one of the two things that are what people are looking at most of the time. And then with that, what's being done on the other side of it to help that particular demographic, whether it be 55 and above, 25 and below, males or white or black, what's being done to help them?
So in fair housing, we would kind of look at those disparate impact issues on a case-by-case basis. So it wouldn't be, a Charlotte-wide systemic problem. It would be, this particular housing provider is implementing something that has a disparate impact on this race. As far as, something more systemic, more citywide, that would be through, city council initiatives, and honestly, a lot of nonprofit initiatives would help with that as well.
Let me go ahead and sneak another question in while we wait. So let me ask you this: as far as departmental, I guess, incentive to not respond, I guess, on a back end more, what are things that you feel like could be done or should be done to encourage people to lend their offerings to everybody as more of kind of dispelling the stigmatization of it all? Like, how do you encourage people to be, what's the marketing plan to get people more open to,
So very, very good questions. And something that I would like to add is something that we do our best in doing with marketing is we try to work closely with the realtor associations themselves, institutes, education, where these realtors are coming out of. So something that we're trying to do and have done a little bit in the past is educating the realtors before they go into practice, right? So making sure that these housing providers and people who help you look for housing and things like that are educated on what they should be following and the consequences of not following the ordinance as well as federal laws. So doing that at the very beginning with the realtor associations, the institutes, and renters and things like that in the beginning is very crucial, so that they know, that there are laws to follow. And luckily, a lot of them have, implemented their own educational things, but we usually try to do a lot of them, and we do them for free too. So, we try to kind of sell that point as well. Yeah, we with our marketing efforts, we try to be really intentional about where our dollars are going and who our complaints are coming from. If we're seeing a gap, we haven't received very little complaints from the Asian community, for example. Like maybe they're just not getting the information. Maybe we can try to target some kind of marketing dollars to make sure they're aware of the resource. But as far as the stigma, I feel like a big battle that we face is this stigma against Section 8 renters, right? That, if you're a Section 8 renter, you're not going to be a good renter, you're not going to be responsible, which is just not true, right? And so that's one of the reasons we have our source of income policy that Rhonda talked about, to try to dispel that stereotype. And we have so many good examples in Charlotte of mixed income housing. So we just know that it's simply not true that you can't have mixed income tenants living side by side in harmony. That's a stereotype that we really need to combat as well. And I know our local historian, Tom Hanchett, he talks about that a lot as well. So we do our best to try to let people know that there are examples of how that can work and work towards getting rid of those negative stereotypes for people that have housing vouchers. And to add one more detail to that, with the immigrant community constantly growing in Charlotte as well, something we have been trying to do more attempts of is working with the immigration community, whether it be through churches or nonprofits that directly serve the community. We try to conduct like different sessions, educational sessions with the community members so that the immigrant community is able to know their rights as residents. Another thing that a lot of people don't know, especially in the Latino communities, that you don't have to be a citizen or a resident of the country to report discrimination, which is really important. So that's something that I have really emphasized on when we do Spanish presentations, which we can do. So if you guys know nonprofits who work directly with the immigrant community, who maybe new arrivals or anything like that, who are newly put into housing or something like that, please let us know. We can do any language. We just have to make sure to do it in advance. And I do Spanish presentations all the time. So that's something that we try to do as well with reaching the immigrant community, because a lot of times, like somebody mentioned, discrimination can be hidden, right? You never really know when you're being discriminated against, especially when it's very underhanded or through paperwork or something like that. So it's important to educate, especially the immigrant community on that.
I've got a question. Yeah.
I'm going to piggyback off your answer because we do a lot of our programming, bilingual programming for the immigrant community, and we're finding that we can't openly advertise it because of fear that ICE may show up. Are you having that similar problem? And what are you doing, I guess, to get around it, to still get the information out to the immigrant community without them being in fear,
Yes, thank you for that question. We have seen that. For example, we have a close partnership with the Latin American Coalition, and we go every other Thursday to give presentations on fair housing rights and non-discrimination. We have seen a steady but very noticeable decline in participants within the coalition themselves for people coming for services. Something that I have seen personally is that with the Know Your Rights events, maybe you guys have heard about them. One of the main things we try to tell our community, especially the immigrant community, is that ICE lives off fear. A lot of the videos, news articles, and things that people see, especially on social media, which we try to tell them to stay away from, are videos of like deportations that took place over more than 5 years ago. They're really old. A lot of those officers are even no longer working in those things. So something that we try to educate our community on is that they instill fear in the community very, very well, because that's how they're able to, I guess, catch more. But something that people also do is education on law enforcement. CMPD does not work with ICE. A lot of people don't know that. So a lot of people in general fear law enforcement. And a lot of times when ICE is going out, it's because of criminal offenses. So we try to educate the community as much as possible to let them know to like not live in fear, because that's what they, that's what they look for. That's what they instill, especially ICE officers. But it's also important to note that CMPD does not work with ICE. So that's something that we try to instill in our community as well. But yes, to answer your question, we have seen a lot of steadily decline on participants coming out to do these important sessions, as well as just getting different resources from places like the Latin American Coalition.
You see apartment complexes, buildings all over the city, all of the time. To what extent do you all take any kind of first strike initiatives to get with these developers to talk to them about fair housing, open housing, and housing discrimination, to kind of get a feel of where their heads are in regards to it versus sitting back and waiting for somebody to come to you and tell you that a particular developer has discriminated against me.
So we do, sessions like this throughout the year in this room for different groups. We do our annual Fair Housing Conference. So we try to get ahead of it that way. We, as Jefferson, partner with a lot of associations, different private companies, anyone who will let us in their doors. We're happy to do a training for them. When people receive city funds, they are signing that agreement that they're gonna uphold our source of income policy. So we try to get ahead of it as much as we can. If we do see something that is sort of more widespread, so say we identify a discriminatory practice within, and that owner of that apartment maybe owns a whole number of apartments throughout North Carolina. So this is way bigger. We find out this is way bigger than this apartment complex. It spreads throughout North Carolina because it's the same owner, maybe same management, property managers. Those kind of cases, HUD typically takes from us to investigate themselves and to resolve, because they're a federal agency. So they typically take those cases that are more widespread, and we are focusing more locally on Charlotte. That's a good question. Anything to add?
Good morning. So how does short-term lease rentals, Airbnbs play into the conversation? I had a friend recently that rented they made reservations on an Airbnb, and once the owner realized they were a person of color, all of a sudden the rental unit was no longer available. How does the Fair Housing Act enter into this conversation, and how should these issues be addressed?
Similar to hotel or motels, hotels, shelters, whether it falls under fair housing can sometimes depend on the length of their stay. If it's a very short stay, it might not fall under fair housing, but if it's more of a longer term stay at that place, then it may fall under fair housing. So that can, we have to, check all the boxes to make sure we have jurisdiction in those cases. But if we don't have jurisdiction, there's of course, we have the Department of Justice that we can refer people to that might be able to take those cases as well. We offer free training for, anybody, regardless of whether we have jurisdiction to take the case or not. We would offer a free non-discrimination ordinance and fair housing training for those providers. I think we've seen maybe a few inquiries come in, not too many, but maybe a few inquiries come in as far as Airbnb, but I'll let Rhonda speak to that if you have any experience with that.
Actually, I haven't, I haven't really received any complaints dealing with Airbnbs as of now. Now, that you said it, probably if I go back upstairs, I probably have about 15 on my desk. But as of now, I haven't seen anything come across dealing with Airbnbs.
Yeah, I think that people, because we have our fair housing ordinance, we have our non-discrimination ordinance. Non-discrimination ordinance covers employment in Charlotte and places that are open to the public in Charlotte. So I think those few inquiries are coming through the NDO complaint form. So yeah, Rhonda wouldn't have seen those. But I think it's a tricky issue, similar to say ride shares, Uber and Lyft. Of course, we want to help. If we can help resolve the issue, we will try. But if we don't have jurisdiction, we're happy to refer you to another resource that would have jurisdiction to investigate that. And of course, we want to promote non-discrimination in any way we can. So we're happy to meet with those owners and talk through what non-discrimination looks like.
Okay, Jackie.
Can you speak to, public accommodations? Restaurants and all?
Yeah, sure. So, public accommodations under our non-discrimination ordinance, it's basically any place that's open to the public in Charlotte. There's a couple exemptions, such as religious organizations and private clubs. But basically anything else that's open to the public is a public accommodation. I will say the cases that we get most commonly in public accommodations are healthcare facilities and food service and hotels. Those seem to be the most common cases that we get.
All right, we got a question from Shay.
I'm just curious if you guys have any kind of financial relationship or ask from developers that are coming into town that they feed into a fund like this or do something to be proactive about, like we talked about the historical impact of these decisions that have been made, some type of fund or some type of investment from them that helps to combat this, but also puts a little bit of pressure on them to not do that because there is penalty.
No, we don't have any funds set up for that, that will, they can put into, so.
Let me ask you this. So, of course, we are in the world of executive orders and those. So, is there a departmental plan that will protect open cases, or what your department does if federal funding is in threat of being compromised?
So our local fair housing ordinance covers Charlotte, and then we have our Federal Fair Housing Act, which covers our nation. Right now, the protected classes are the same in both. There's the 7 protected classes. They mirror each other. So if there are protected classes that are not covered federally, or, we would look to our local fair housing ordinance. So we as a community can decide, with city council's approval, but it is up to our community to decide what protected classes are in our Charlotte Fair Housing Ordinance. As long as that passes city council vote, and different municipalities have different protected classes in their local ordinances, I'll say. But we do have an agreement with HUD, so we do, receive payment for investigating cases, and HUD provides that payment. So of course, we're following that closely, but we are city employees, we're not federal employees. So there's kind of a distinction there.
Okay, just want to piggyback on something she said. You have the Federal Fair Housing Act, and then the city of Charlotte has their own local fair housing ordinance. So even our ordinance mirrors the Fair Housing Act. So if something was to happen to the Federal Fair Housing Act here in Charlotte, we still have our Fair Housing Act ordinance, which will still allow us to do investigations.
The community organizer may want to do a little follow-up question to Chay's question. Do you all, and I don't know this, maybe this isn't a decision that you all can make, but do you all have an idea of what it could take to get these developers coming in? Like, what steps do we need to take is in your role or as the community to get these developers to create that fund to support what he just mentioned?
That, to be honest, I hear what you're saying, and that would be something that would come through city council. That's a city council decision, because pretty much we just investigated an unjust, unfair, Fair Housing Discrimination Act. So as far as adding something to that and having the funds set up, that would have to come from city council.
Okay, let's give these ladies a hand. You really educated us this morning. We really appreciate you. And please come back, and your department, please come back anytime. I'm sure that we're gonna have 20 more questions after you finish today about this. So we'll look for a follow-up at some point. Thank you so much. I'm gonna take announcements. Do we have any announcements? Okay, Lydia and Carrie.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, ladies. I want to announce if there's anyone in here that would like for community partnerships and family engagement with CMS to come and talk to their neighborhood association about anything that relates to family and community involvement, education. We will come to your community meeting. We will meet with you and we will advise you of all the programs that we have that are available for families, and we'll see how we can work together in collaboration, and maybe you can reciprocate and help the families on a daily basis, and we'll see how we can help yours. So if you're interested in that, please see me before you leave today and sign up, and we'll make it happen.
We can do it. Yes.
We mentioned the redress movement in the people's budget earlier, and Jasmine, please chime in if I leave something out. The people's budget is a collaboration of community partners, local big leaders, advocacy groups, etc., working to form a people first budget. So we are proposing items to the Charlotte City Council. Some of them include $1 million to improve city's mass displacement protocol. So when there is displacement going on, that there can be support, and the specifics are in this flyer here. So the plan is to get these postcards signed. If you're interested in supporting this movement, there is no money involved that we're asking from you all people. It's just basically sign this to support the people's budget, and please give them back to me because we will be presenting them in person to our district representatives. So if you have any questions, Jasmine or me can help you.
We have an announcement back to
On Friday of this week, there will be a funeral for Phyllis Baxter. Does anybody here know Phyllis Baxter? Didn't think so. Phyllis Baxter was one of the original plaintiffs in a federal lawsuit that they won against the U.S. Federal Reserve for racial discrimination. And she never really talked about it, but she was very active in the community and very quiet. She was the older sister of Vanessa Baxter, who worked with me as a reporter at WBTV News. Phyllis passed after extensive illness, but this having been Women's Month, she passed. And I thought it was appropriate to let you guys know the pioneer in the movement for equal pay has passed on, and she was the first and one of the plaintiffs in that case. The case, by the way, was Cooper versus Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond.
Hello, I'm Alexis King. I am community organizer for the Charlotte Mecklenburg Association of Educators. So I want to uplift next week's school board meeting is the budget, the public hearing for the budget. So this is a really big one. We are working with the League of Women Voters and Public Schools Strong to possibly rally beforehand. And we're trying to get a lot of support. Now the color, usually we wear red for ed, but the Charlotte Mecklenburg Association of Educators has a purple shirt. It's like this shape. So if anyone wants to come out, this is a really key date to support that. And tomorrow at 6, there's going to be a community kind of conversation about the budget as well. That one is mostly for families, but it's another good event to come out to, and that's going to be at Jay and Alexander Village.
So I just wanted to make another quick reminder. If anybody here is part of a group or anything of the sort where you would like to have a fair housing or non-discrimination ordinance presentation, training, or anything of the sort, to do it for free, any language, of course, please reach out to me or Rhonda over there, and then we can make sure to schedule something with y'all. I also wanted to say that I have another job. So I work for a nonprofit called Center for Prevention Services. We have a free youth photography program currently ongoing. So if you guys know any youth who are interested in the art of photography, they also learn prevention education, drug misuse prevention education. It's a bilingual program, so Spanish and English kids are all welcome. 10 to 18 years old. We're currently meeting on Fridays, every Friday from 6 to 8 at Galilee Ministries. So if you have any questions, please let me know on that. But yes, thank you for coming, everyone. Is anybody else?
Shay, this Saturday, April 5th, please join us at the entrance to University Park Creative Arts School. We're having a block party and cleanup to rid the bus stop of trash for our West Charlotte High kids and clean up the entrance for our University Park Creative Arts students. We'd love the community to come out and support. Block party, food, fun, fantastic time. Please join us.
Oh, might as well, right? April 26th, the Great West Side Festival. You know it's coming. Saturday, April 26th from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m., the greatest time you will ever have in your life, the Great West Side Fish Fry. We have the entire diaspora frying fish and pulling out the hot grease, and it will be amazing. Music, line dance, and all the great black things you enjoy. 1 to 7, Saturday, April 26th.
Winston, can I make a reservation for my fish, because I don't stand that long line.
We do not have bottle service or VIP. No sections available. It is everybody. We are all equal.
Discriminating on age.
Well, I will say this: we do have the Natalie McElrath Senior Sitting Area, and I will try to facilitate with our volunteers a service area where you can put your orders in. Thank you, Ms. Beard. We're gonna take. Well, hold on. I don't want to get in trouble with the discrimination. Hold on. Let me, Rhonda, how old do the people need to be so I can be cool? I don't want to break the law. 60. We just gonna say 58. They keep it cool. All right. Protect me more.
Okay. Thank you. I do appreciate it.
No, we will. We're gonna take care of it.
Okay. Okay. I want to thank everyone for coming. Please be back next week. We have the public library's CEO of the board. Yeah. Okay. So he will be here, and this is something that's really, really important. Okay. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day. Oh, that's right. That is the second. Okay. Remember, next Tuesday we have just conversation and networking at 7:30 to 8:30. So please come in early. We have breakfast served, and it's usually a nice hot breakfast, with grits and all. And so come at 7:30. The Black Alliance.
Oh, come on now. Next week, that is right. 7:30, we'll open an hour early for a free breakfast. But as Jasmine say, continental. Little hot. Okay, that's good enough.
Oh, real quick, on May 1st, Mental Health America of Central Carolina is having their gala in the limelight. It's going to have Bakari Sellers as the keynote speaker. You can go to mhaofcc.org to get your tickets. We still need sponsors. And I know all of my gala folks are in here, Miss Carlinia, everybody, all of y'all. I see y'all at all the galas, so I want to make sure y'all are there. Thank you.
Wait, who's the executive director of Mental Health America?
Her name is Io Johnson.
Oh, really?
She's over here.
Just talk to the people a little bit about what we hope to expect at this amazing gala with celebrities.
Thank you. What a great PR person I have over there. So yes, we are having our gala. I had announced it before, but I didn't bring the flyers because we keep editing it. But we do have Akari Sellers as our keynote. We have Molly Grantham as our auctioneer. We have Alicia Quarles. She's going to be our MC. And then we're also giving out 3 awards. We're doing a innovative award. So our staff are doing nominations right now for innovative programs in the mental health space. We also have a Young Volunteer Award named after a former volunteer that passed away tragically. And that is for volunteers in the mental health space, ages 21 to 35. And then we have the H. Keith Bremer Award, which is also an award that MHA National recognizes for anyone that's leading the charge in mental health. And that could be a politician, a community activist, or any of that. So yes, please join us. Oh, yeah, so we also have a silent auction going on that will open up the day of. We have a lot of really fabulous prizes. And this is my first major fundraiser that I have initiated as executive director. So I need everybody's support. This is a big leap of faith for us to go from a free morning breakfast to an evening ticketed event. So any support I can get, I'm appreciative of.
How much on that day and time?
What's the date?
It's Thursday, May 1st. It starts at 6 p.m. It'll be at the KC. And you can get the tickets at mhaofcc.org. I'm also taking sponsorships if you have a small business. And if you want to put an ad in our program booklet, we have a silent auction. The tickets are $250. It's a fundraiser. And we also have live music by the Harvey Cummings Band.
Yeah, do that part in there. It's a fundraiser. All right. Oh, Miss Carlinia, did you get yours?
Oh, I did.
All right.
I'm waiting. I don't think we did try to give y'all an opportunity. Thank you.
Oh.
Please sign up. We're willing to come to your community, do it in person or on Zoom. Talk about our wonderful children.
Now, you know you're supposed to have a microphone.
And listen, and we will,
And by the way, I just want to stress to all of you, if you do not have, please get either now or in the near future, an original or a print of my good friend Tommy Robinson.
Yes.
He is currently in rehab facility Peak, runs out sources, and his health is not the best, but he still has that mouth. And he's encouraging everybody. If you don't have one of his pieces, get one. And you might get lucky, he might sign it.
Just celebrated a birthday too. Oh yeah, absolutely. Just turned 78 on yesterday.
You don't understand how important and famous Tommy Robinson is, and that painting is worth a lot. Okay, wait a minute, before we leave, let's have another birthday.
Oh.
Steve Johnson's birthday was Sunday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Steve. Happy birthday to you.
That's right, yeah. Join us for the Steve Johnson after party next Tuesday, 7:30 a.m. We got drinks, we got refreshments, courtesy of NC Black Alliance. They said some of the appetizers be hot too, so come on, get your some before they cool down. All right, we'll see you next week for MT. Marcellus Tucker, the CEO of the library, and possibly Mr. Charles Thomas, chair of the board.